Welcome to the Deepak Saini Show.
He said he gon' huff and puff and blow my mind up. You meet the island girl, she might dirty wind up.
This is a special podcast episode taken from my summit that I ran last year, Reverse the Effects of Aging Summit. Do enjoy. Welcome back to the Reverse the Effects of Aging Summit. I am your host, Deepak Saini. I believe that a big part of healthy aging and reversing the effects of aging is having the right mindset and eliminating those limiting beliefs that we all sometimes have, especially around aging. So I'd like to introduce you to my guest today, Martha Wilson. After 27 years with the CIA, Martha is an expert at helping ordinary people uncover their hidden drivers, derailers, and showstoppers so they can do extraordinary things. Entrepreneurs and leaders hire Martha when they are ready to do their inner work to move past their hidden edges so they can take off the limits of their goals, their income, and their future. Thank you, Martha, for joining us to the Reverse the Effects of Aging Summit.
I am so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me, Deepak.
Oh, my pleasure, my pleasure. And I'll just note for anyone who doesn't know or hasn't seen already, I have a podcast, and Martha was actually guest number 1 on my podcast. So definitely go check that out. So I don't want to go over everything again that people could see on the podcast. We'll keep it to kind of the topic of the focus of the summit. But let's start with this. I have to ask the question. It's the basic question. Everyone's wondering. How does one go from being, an undercover CIA operative to, becoming, a success coach now?
Yeah, well, as is often the case with so many of us when we make a pivot, for me, it all started on that infamous day when I was sitting at my office in Southeast Asia, head in my hands, thinking, what the heck has happened here? Because I had just gotten off the phone, getting my hiney ripped yet again from my boss, telling me about everything that my team was and was not doing that was not getting her the results that she wanted. And the thing of it is, that was not news to me. I was pretty clear I was failing, but I didn't know what to do about it. And here's the weird thing. So as a case officer with CIA, my job was to spot, assess, develop, recruit, and handle human assets with access to information of use to U.S. policymakers. That's a whole lot of words to say that my number one job was to get connected to somebody and uncover what we would call their vulnerabilities. And essentially, their vulnerabilities were the source of their greatest fear, pain, or dissatisfaction. And notice I did not say the fear, pain, or dissatisfaction itself, but rather the source of it. Because if I could uncover the source, then I could do one of two things. I could either use that to get them to do what I wanted them to do, which is usually what I was doing if I was trying to recruit them, or number 2, I could address the source so that fear, pain, or dissatisfaction no longer had any power over them. And that was my ultimate objective, because once I recruited somebody, I needed them to be absolutely, positively unflappable, unshakable in any situation. So that was my job. So isn't it fascinating that I couldn't do that for myself? And as I was sitting there that day with my head in my hands, all of a sudden it hit me. Holy cow. This is exactly what I'm looking for in my targets. I'm like, Houston, we have a problem here. I feel like a failure. I have what is supposedly the coolest job in the world, and I thought that it was, but I felt like a failure. And I didn't know what to do about it. And the worst part about it was, at that time, I thought that in order for me to have the life and the career that I wanted, one of two things had to happen. Either CIA had to change to fit me, or I had to change to fit CIA. And the problem was I'd already tried both of those already, and it wasn't working. So that was the moment when I realized, not only is there a problem here, but number two, I'm the only one who can fix it. It's like I heard the words of this old army captain kind of running through my head when he says, "Lieutenant, when in charge, take charge." and and I realized that that was the moment that it was time for me to take charge, not of my team or my time or my targets or any of those things outside of me, but I needed to take charge of what was going on inside of me. Because, as much as I hated to admit it, the one common denominator here was me. And that was the time that I decided, okay, I need to look inside myself to see, where am I not experiencing the fulfillment and the finances and the freedom that I know that I need, that I know that I want. And it was through that process of digging through what is the rub here. And the truth is, my very first coaching certification was not because I could care anything at all about becoming a coach. My very first coaching certification was all about, I'm trying to find a way to save myself.
Hmm.
So long story short, what happened? Well, after investing the time and energy to really dig into what was actually going on, where was I? And more importantly, why was I not experiencing the fulfillment and the finances and the freedom that I should have enjoyed with the quality of life that I was living? Why was I not there? And once I started to figure that out and take the steps to turn that around, ultimately, I did not end up leaving CIA. I stayed with CIA for another 8 years and fully retired after that. As a result of everything that I uncovered by myself, I stepped into a corporate gig that landed in my lap. I wasn't looking for this job. The opportunity landed in my lap, doubled my government salary overnight. And that was also the same thing that drove me to then step out of that corporate assignment and really start coaching full time. That was, gosh, 5 years ago now. And I'm happy to report that, again, as I continue to unfold all of this, I've now replaced that corporate salary doing what I love. And that is the piece that really creates that underlying current, and that's what I do for my clients. So that's the short version, which turned out to be longer than I expected, but in any case, that's the short version of how I stepped into this world of coaching, and I've never looked back.
I love it. I want to underline a couple things for the audience. So everyone, as you know, Martha didn't talk anything about health there or reversing the effects of aging, which the summit is about. But all those same principles apply when we are feeling stuck in our finances or whatever the case may be, in our health. We have to look inside and what is driving that and get to the root cause of those things. Now, Martha, you talked about the CIA and super cool job and, the recruiting assets and all that. I know you kind of briefly mentioned, and anyone who listened to our interview when you're on my podcast, you're all in the Army. Before that, have you always been one of these go-getter type of people, or that's something that just kind of through your experiences, it kind of wielded itself to the powerhouse that you are today?
I would love to say that I was always one of those people who was like, yeah, give me a goal and let me see how quick I can get there. Yeah, not so much. Not so much. The truth is, I historically was somebody who absolutely hated goals because, quite frankly, it felt like it always left me in this no-win situation. Either I'd set this really, really big goal, and everywhere I'd go, whether it was military, CIA, corporate, even with my own business, everybody's saying, you got to set a goal, you got to set a goal, you got to set a goal. And I would do everything in my power to avoid doing it because it always felt like I couldn't win. If I set this really big goal, I'd set this big goal. And then with every day that goes by, I'm looking at this goal and I'm thinking, it's no closer. I'm not there. I'm further behind. I don't know how to do it. And this stress level just starts to build. So then, in an effort to deal with that, I decided, well, let me just set a smaller goal. The only problem with that was because it wasn't the thing that I really, really wanted. Either I'd hit the smaller goal and my immediate response is, well, doesn't matter anyway. Or because it wasn't what I wanted, I wouldn't take any action at all. And then, of course, what I hear in my head is, well, you can't hit the smaller goal. Why on earth would you want a bigger one? And all of this started this cycle of, you're a failure. You can't hit goals. So then I decided, well, all right, forget it. I just won't have any goal at all. But the problem with that was that anytime something actually did work out the way I wanted it to, it felt like a happy accident as opposed to something that I could create or recreate or plan for. So, yeah, goals were not my friend. And even going back to, that day in Southeast Asia with my head in my hands, part of my frustration, part of my disappointment in there was because of that sense of I'm not in control. I feel like I am being buffeted by the winds, that I'm not directing my life. I'm living a life by default, not by design, and I don't even know how to design it. And that sense of missing out, that sense of getting it wrong, that feeling of failure very much felt like a physical weight on my body. And going back to talking about the reversing the effects of aging, the part that I didn't mention is back in Southeast Asia, I spent a good 2 months barely able to walk because of the pain in my lower back.
No, I don't think you ever mentioned that one before.
Yeah, I had come back to Florida on R&R, and don't ask me what that stands for. Rest and recuperation or something. I don't know. It's a government acronym.
That's what I would have guessed, but
yeah, I don't know. Anyhow, and I had come here to the Keys. Had spent the majority of the time diving. Was with we were together then. He's my husband now, but we were not married then. So having a great time. 2 days before I'm supposed to get on the plane to fly back, we're on the dive boat, and it's the cliche story. I have the muffin in my hand and I bend over to put it in the cooler, and the next thing I know, I'm on my hands and knees and can't move. And that had me flat on my back for 2 solid weeks and in physical therapy for 3 months after that, all because of that tension, of that stress that I was carrying inside my body. And fast forward to the goals piece, part of that frustration was being caught in that double bind. There's this thing that I want, but I don't know how to get there. And if I set a goal and I don't get there, then I feel like a failure. So working through I very distinctly remember having this conversation with a coach that I was working with at the time. And I distinctly remember saying, if I could just sort out what's up with me and goals, then I feel like I would have something here. I would understand what was working. And that is the part that has unfolded ever since.
Amazing. A couple of things I want to relay for the audience. So just that last piece of when, you hurt your back, I think we can't underplay the importance for the audience of everything's connected, right? Our physical to our mental to our spiritual, and obviously we can talk, stress reduction techniques till we're blue in the face, but ultimately, like that stress, whatever it is for you, and there's many hidden sources of stress, some are more obvious than others, can actually physically manifest itself, and in your case, it was, kind of the back is where it showed itself. So, again, I just want to really make that point for the attendees. The other thing, I'd love to get your take on this before we move on. So, no surprise, I have a publicly stated goal to be a centenarian plus. And again, that's like, God, that's like a 60-year out a goal, Deepak, and, whatever. And it's, I think about it all the time. And, I have interviews like this, and I actually physically say it out loud all the time because I'm sharing my message. But the way I look at it, and I'd love to take your take on my approach to it, is I just try and do like a handful of things every day to the best of my ability with the intention that, like, maybe it's a bit of a hope. I don't really know. I think there's some science there. I think there's some best practices, but I'm just really hoping that, come 40, 50, 60 years down the road, it's like I met my goal because I did the things now, these small things that I layer on. And I don't really worry about that big, long goal, and I don't let it stress me out. Sometimes I let the small things, it's like, oh, I could have, why did you eat that? That's not part of the plan. What are you compensating with? That kind of stuff. But I'd love to get your take on, I guess, maybe coach me for a second, I guess. My philosophy of, like, just, here's like a handful of small goals, trying to do the best of your ability, and they should work out to the big goal.
Well, so what I have come to understand is that the whole purpose of a goal is to draw you into that next highest version of yourself. In fact, ideally, we'll never actually get to the goal per se, because the truth is, if you have a target out there and you know exactly how you're going to get there, that's not a goal, that's a to-do list. If it's a really big thing that has bunches of to-dos with it, that's what we call a project. But it's not actually a goal. A goal is exactly like what you're talking about: to become a centenarian, to be the ideal grandparent, to create $5 million in your business or in your bank account or whatever. The whole purpose of the goal is for who you become in the process.
Yeah,
which is why I love when you're talking about, just doing one or two things every day. That whole 1% rule, 1% better every day, 1% closer every day, with the goal out there as the point of focus of the thing that's drawing you forward.
So that as our jumping off point, then what do you think is, and you can direct it, kind of the focus of the summit for reversing the effects of aging, or just maybe more generally, but what do you think is the primary thing that's actually keeping people from being consistent and making that continuous action towards, what their goal actually is?
Yeah. And it's interesting because regardless of whether you're talking about taking actions to keep yourself healthy so you can reverse the effects of aging, or whether you're talking about a business goal or you're talking about a relationship goal, whatever it is, ultimately I find that there are four, it's almost like I want to call them like the four horsemen of the apocalypse, because that's kind of what happens when these things start running. But it's four key, I'm going to use the word beliefs, and I'm going to realize that as I'm saying it, I'm kind of getting myself in a bind, because these so-called beliefs are not actually the problem. The four horsemen, the four beliefs that tend to get people stuck are: number one, it's impossible. It's impossible for me, as in other people can do it, but I can't do it. It's going to be really hard, or I'll have to give something up. And the mistake that people make is calling these things limiting beliefs. And the reason that that's a problem is twofold. Number one, As soon as you call something a limiting belief, it brings with, particularly in this personal development world that we are in, it brings with it this huge wave of judgment. You shouldn't be thinking about that. You shouldn't be, just think a different thought, tell a different story, and you put all this additional pressure on yourself. But the second thing is this is the distinction between limiting beliefs or mindset and what's really going on, which is the place that these beliefs came from. Because these beliefs came from the hidden programming that's running in the background for you all the time. That hidden programming that got installed in you before the day that you were born, got added to as you went through, as you came up in your family, went through school, then you stepped into your professional career and your professional environment. All of this hidden programming starts running in the background. And this is the part of you that is completely below your conscious awareness. This is the part of you that is running instantaneously. And the thing is, people think that mindset and limiting beliefs live in your head. That's where they live. But the thing that creates them is sensation based. It lives here in your body. This is the part of you that will slam on the brakes and jerk the steering wheel in the split second before you have the conscious thought, oh, that SOB just cut in front of me. It is that hidden programming that causes that belief to run. So let's say, for example, let's say you have a goal to be a centenarian. But if your programming, if your hidden programming says that's absolutely impossible, there are no people 100 years old who are healthy and clear-minded on the planet. It's completely impossible. It doesn't exist. If that's already running inside of you, then when you go to look out into the world, to even set the goal at all, to even say the goal out loud, to even take the first step, your heart's not in it. There's no energy behind it because there's a part of you that's convinced it's never going to happen anyway.
Martha, I don't mean to interrupt, but maybe this would be a good exercise for the audience. Let's go through let's use this exact same example, me being a centurion. Let's go through the 4 horsemen, and maybe, and again, everyone pick your own goal, right? It doesn't have to be what my goal is. Let's do it again. So horseman number 1 is
it's impossible.
It's impossible. So okay, so my take on that is like, okay, we know people can live to 120. That's well documented. There's new technologies all the time helping extend health span and lifespan, and those are 2 different things. So that, hey, I should be able to get at least 20% less than what people have already been done. That shouldn't be too hard. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. That's my approach to horseman number 1.
And I'd like to invite people, because there is a scale here.
Of course,
there's so as we go through these 4 horsemen with your goal in mind, whatever it is, I want you to rate yourself on how true does this statement feel. There's the big F word. How true does this statement feel? 0, not true at all. 10, absolutely, positively, 100% true. So if you're looking at your goal, I'm going to be a centenarian, for example. On a scale of 0 to 10, how true is the statement, it's impossible?
Like 1 for me.
Perfect. Awesome. Good. And, when I'm working with clients, I will then encourage them to pull the string to even say what's in the 1. But for purposes of today, just to keep us moving, because the hidden programming that's behind it's impossible, this is the hidden programming that will keep you from fully committing to your goal. This is the part that will have you half-assing it. This is the part that will have you just sort of Well, dragging your feet, getting through it. It's also the hidden programming behind It's Impossible is the programming that will have you bouncing from thing to thing to thing to thing to thing, but never feeling like anything's actually working.
Mm-hmm.
So let's try the second one. How true is this statement in regard to your goal? It's impossible for me. Other people can do it, but I can't do it. It's impossible for me.
Yeah. So my number. So before I say my number, and this might preface a little bit why I'll come up with the number that I am coming up with is like I have in my at least from a longevity point of view, at least from my grandparents, not there. All my grandparents are already gone, lost them young. My own parents still alive, health issues. They're likely not making centenarian.
Mm-hmm.
So with that preface, I take the approach of like, why not me? I have tools that maybe not all the resources that other people have, but I have the knowledge, I have the tools, and I'm sure going to try my hardest. So that's kind of the how I handle horseman number two. But for the score, I guess there's still that little bit of an underline that it's,
Mm-hmm.
kind of puts me at like maybe like a 2.5 or a 3, where it's like,
Mm-hmm.
well,
Mm-hmm.
you're probably not genetically gifted, so I have to like overcome those things. I don't have the the track record or like the family history type thing. So that's kind of how I'm where I'm coming from. Still,
Perfect. And you're hitting exactly the right point because the hidden programming behind It's Impossible for Me, again, can go one of two ways. It's either, no, really, you don't get it. I'm just not that special. I'm not unique enough. I'm not special enough. Or it can go the other way. No, Martha, you don't get it. I am a special kind of. I'm a special kind of busy. I'm a special kind of broken. I am a special kind of, my genetics are such that. And again, I want to be really clear here. There is no right answer for these horsemen because these horsemen, they are simply here to show you, where do I have the potential to access even more power within myself? So, for example, if you're looking at It's Impossible for Me, and even if that's only at a 2 or a 2.5, then we still get to ask the question, what's in that 2.5? Is it the genetics? Therefore, what do I need to overcome those genetics?
yeah,
It's
very good
about
point.
opening up the question
Yeah,
because this is what it's all about. And this is the thing with hidden programming. And we'll talk a little bit more about this here in a few minutes. But let's just finish up the rest of the horsemen
yeah,
here.
absolutely. Yeah. So number 3
So
was which again?
it'll probably be really hard.
Yeah. So my take on that is I acknowledge it will be hard, and there is multiple steps and habits and everything. But my take on it is like, no, that's my goal. Like I'm committed to this, and I've already put a lot of these things in place. And am I perfect? No. So my score on that one is like a 1. Like I know it's going to be hard, but I'm happy to deal with it. So like
So
maybe even 0 is my score on that.
so how true is the statement? It'll probably be really hard.
Oh, no. Okay, so sorry. Yeah, it will be hard. It's a 10. It's a
It's
10,
a 10.
but
It's a 10.
I'm jumping in with both
Okay.
feet. Yeah.
So here's the thing. I know that lots of high achievers come with what I call this hard worker program. We pride ourselves on being hard workers. We pride ourselves on being able to do hard things. And this is great. And when that it's probably going to be really hard track is running, it will have you making things harder than they need to be. It will have you working too hard for too little reward. It will have you settling for less. And here's the thing, for people who carry this hard worker program, the opposite of hard work is lazy or entitled or Careless, which of course, if you're a high achiever, those words, lazy, entitled, careless, reckless, those words for a high achiever are absolutely unforgivable in the system. So as you begin to play with this hard work program, the opportunity within it is when you can see how strongly that's running for you, then you get to explore, where am I making this harder than it needs to be? Where am I insisting that this has to take longer? Where am I overlooking an opportunity because I assume that it has to be hard? Which is a very different thing than being willing to be committed.
Right.
You
No,
get the
very good
difference?
questions. Very good questions. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I'll just, before we move on, I'll just say there's already many, again, my personal habits, and all, you know, in my talks through the summit, I'll be sharing some of those as well. There's a lot of things I do for you know, minimal effective dose, right? Super quick. Like I don't need to, I'll just use exercising level. I don't need to be 3 hours at the gym for my goals. I need 15 minutes consistently. So no, those are very, you know, for the audience, again, whatever your goal is, like take these questions and reflect on them for yourself for sure. So very, very powerful. All right. Horseman number 4.
Horseman number 4. I'll have to give something up. How true is that statement? I'll have to give something up.
I would say it is, from the statement itself, I would say high. It's like 10.
Yeah.
Right? But it's kind of like the last question that was like, but I'm committed to the alternatives or what have you.
Yeah. So here's the thing. Again, a lot of high achievers come with what I call sacrifice programming, which means that you have to, inside that program, in order to get something that you want, you have to give something up. This is, so if you've ever been the person who put a goal out there, you sucked it up, you made it happen, you got there, but you somehow lost yourself in the process, that was you very literally living out this sacrifice programming. It's the thing that says, you know, if it doesn't suck, you're not working hard enough. I mean, this is very literally what we call the price of success. This piece right here is the fear of failure that people talk about.
Let me ask you this question in the
Or fear of
context.
success.
Yeah, no, I totally get what you're saying. And again, I implore the audience to, like, how does this relate to your goal? But let's use this example. So, so am I giving up excess sugar to reach my goal? Yes. But where does it come in? Was like, I'm okay with that, or I realize that that thing, and again, kind of we're using a health example here, and it might be different for someone's business or whatever, but it's like, I'm okay with that. I don't want that. I don't like that anymore. Like, where does, how does that fit in?
So it reminds me of a story that a friend of mine told me a year or so ago. She's like, yeah, I was having this problem with brain fog and achy joints. And so I went to my holistic physician, and she told me that I had to give up all sugar and all bread. And she had a long list of things. And she said, and I hate my life. There's the piece. There's the piece right here. So when this I'll have to give something up programming is running, it assumes that in order to have what you want, you have to hate your life.
Got it.
That you have to give up the things that make your heart sing, the things that light you up. And the truth is, it's exactly the opposite. And particularly when you're talking about your health and your body, when, yes, okay, you're eliminating sugar or at least cutting it way down. But what else have you brought into your life to fill the place? Whether it's a different form of natural sweetness from fruit or a banana, whether it's all of a sudden, holy cow, my body works. there's no sacrifice there.
Yeah, Martha, I'm glad you said that, because I was just thinking to myself, and like, first of all, I don't drink pop, haven't for many years. My life does not suck because I don't have pop. But I love I love what you just said, how it doesn't have to be like a 1-for-1. Like, oh, I don't put sugar in my banana bread or brownies or something. I use bananas as sweetener, whatever. Like, it doesn't have to be a 1-for-1, because I was thinking, first thing came to mind, so I'm glad you brought this up, is like, I got rid of, a number of things I don't eat anymore because how they make me feel, but I filled it in with gratitude, meditation, things that are what some people wouldn't necessarily think 1-for-1, but I've added things to my life where I've taken physical things out, but I've added more holistic or spiritual things. And I think
Mhm.
I think it can go both ways. I think you're shaking your head, so you agree with me. So
Yeah. No, it really is. It's all about this balance. It's just that when that sacrifice programming is running, it assumes that it has to suck. And it will stop you from then being able to explore once again, where is the opportunity? What is the thing that I really love? What is the thing that I really, really want? What is the thing that truly lights me up? It's probably not the brownies.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, everyone ask that for yourselves, how that looks like for you. And I think that's a perfect segue with this actually. And thank you, Martha, for playing along. That's just something that's popped in my head. So
Yeah, I'm glad you brought it up. That's
yeah.
awesome.
So maybe I think that's a good segue to, for whether it's a health goal. Obviously, people are here on the summit in this reason, but maybe it's something else in their business or what have you. What's the advantage of uncovering our own hidden programming? How does it help us to meet whatever our goals are?
So, couple of pieces. First of all, when you uncover your own hidden programming, just like we were just playing with the four horsemen, when you uncover your own hidden programming, now you get to focus on the right problem instead of investing a whole lot of time and energy and money sometimes on the wrong problem. Now you can get to the actual source of the thing that's slowing you down, of the thing that's getting in your way, and you can address it at the source. So, number one, it's easier. But number two, and this is the part that I think is so cool, the best part of all. Because of that hidden programming that's been running your entire life, each one of us has developed certain patterns of thought, belief, and behavior that impact everything we do. Most success coaches will tell you that you should try to overcome the pattern, break the pattern, get rid of the pattern, get rid of it. And it absolutely drives me crazy because number one, it's really hard. And if you could manage to do it, if anybody out there ever tried to break a habit, if you've ever tried to break a habit, you know how hard that is. And even if you could manage to overcome or break that pattern, you'd wind up throwing out the baby with the bathwater. Because here's the thing, those patterns were forged in fire. Over the course of your life, as you developed these patterns of thought, belief, and behavior designed to navigate you around something that you don't want to feel or experience, the patterns that most often got you the results that you wanted, those became the default patterns. So you practiced them in all sorts of situations and you got really, really good at them. Now, here's the thing about patterns. Number one, they're reliable. They work the same way every single time. Number two, they require zero maintenance. They're already there. Number three, they are automatic. When the stakes are high and the chips are down, that's what's going to run. And here's the best part. Number four, because it was forged in fire, it is very literally your greatest strength. That's why you've been powerless against it until now. When you understand the pattern, you can actually reverse engineer it and use it to get you to your goal. That is way easier than trying to break it. This is actually you becoming more of who you already are, the most natural version of you, the strongest version of you. And that's a whole lot more fun.
So playing to your strengths as opposed to eliminating your weaknesses.
It's that and one step further. Because as you're looking at those patterns, when those patterns are running on autopilot in the background and you don't see them, they do in fact show up as weaknesses. And that's why so many people are trying to break them or get rid of them.
Mm.
But when you understand how it works, why it works, your ability to leverage a pattern is directly proportional to your ability to understand why it's running. And I don't mean why as in big general, how did it get there? No, I mean, why is it running in this specific moment right here, right now? Because when you can see that, then you have the capacity to pull the strength, to pull the power out of that pattern. You get to keep the power, but get rid of the stress, get rid of the sabotage, get rid of the resistance. So you get to keep the energy in it. You get to keep the forward moving energy in it without the resistance.
Totally makes sense. So powerful. Regardless, you're coming. Probably everyone watching this is going to have some health goal, right? You wouldn't be watching this summit if you didn't have something you wanted to work on. But I think this transcends, and Martha doesn't really necessarily work with people on health goals per se, but business, personal life, obviously health, like this type of that's what I'm looking for. The way to approach it, the way we're thinking about this is like it transcends anything that anyone wants to work on. So huge knowledge drops here, and I hope everyone's really gotten something from this. Martha, just as we come to sort of wrapping up here, again, this is the Reverse the Effects of Aging Summit. So outside of kind of the power of kind of the mindset and mitigating our own hidden programming and all the things we've been talking about, what are your top one or two things that you personally do to reverse the effects of aging?
Well, number one is I'm continually doing this kind of inner work, because here's what I know. If I'm going through my day feeling like I'm pushing a rock uphill, that is not good for my health. I mean, one of the very first things that I see, one of the first outer transformations that I see in my clients, even though we're not working on health, one of the very first things I see is a light that starts to come back into their faces because they're sleeping better, that their shoulders come back down out of their ears because they're not so tense all the time. It starts that way. So the first thing I do to reverse my own effects of aging is exactly that, keeping on top of my inner game. Second thing is morning is my favorite part of the day. And why is that? Because I get to start it first with mold-free, toxin-free, organic coffee, 1 cup only, and that's all I need, followed by some form of physical exercise, followed by, or actually somewhere in the middle of that, my meditation, which directly came out of a conversation that you and I had when you were saying, well, because I was commenting that I knew I needed to get more meditation back into my life. And you were saying, well, how can you integrate that into your morning routine? And my brain immediately said, well, it has to go in order. I have to do this and do this and do this and do this. And then one morning it hit me. Why? Why does it have to be that way? Why can't I go start my walk, stop in the middle of my walk, do my meditation, and then finish my walk? Which is what I do now.
Awesome. I didn't know that. I'm glad I played
Yeah.
some small role in that.
You did. And I can also tell you it's working because my doctor has let me know that my CRP numbers are down and my adrenal numbers are back where they're supposed to be.
Oh, that is
So
awesome. Congratulations. That's
thank
amazing.
you.
That's amazing. See, one simple, I mean, Martha's doing lots of things right, and the inner work is huge, obviously, but just like one little simple tweak there, and like it's, you know, I'm not going to say that's the only thing that resulted in those lab values for her, but it's a compounding of things, a bunch of little things that all add up. So that's amazing. That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that with me.
Yeah.
And speaking of sharing, you do have a gift that you would like to give to the audience as well. It's a three-part video series, and of course all of Martha's links and how to contact her and the socials and a link for this gift will be below the video here. But Martha, can you just very quickly describe for the audience what this video series is about?
Yeah. So it's a 3-part video series. It's called CIA Spy Secrets to Making Goals Work for You.
Like
And
sorry, you have to download it just for that name. Come on, everyone, just that name alone, you have to download it and see what it's about, right? So anyway, sorry. Please
um,
continue.
so the first part will go more deeply into those 4 horsemen that we were just talking about, what's really going on behind them, how they work, how they are showing up for you. Then you also get an opportunity to see what is your biggest blind spot when it comes to your goal. What is the piece that you're not seeing? So this gives you a chance to uncover some of your own hidden programming and how it relates to the specific goal that you're working on at any given time. Whether your goal is I'm going to lose X number of pounds by Y date, whether your goal is, yep, I'm going to be a centenarian, whether your goal is I'm wanting to ensure that I have a healthy baby, whatever it is, the programming, the process to get to the programming is the same. So you'll get a chance to walk through that, understand how it's driving you, and of course, then more importantly, understand how you can get it working for you instead of against you.
It's amazing. I'm definitely going to download that, and even though I want to go through my 4 horsemen again and again. This is about a summit on reversing the effects of aging, but just download these resources and put it to any part of your life. Could be business related, could be around your money mindset or whatever the case may be. It transcends for sure. So I think everyone, you obviously, I think everyone enjoyed. I certainly enjoyed this conversation. I'm sure everyone did as well. And if you want to, have this 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 talk with Martha, for forever. Again, with all our other fantastic speakers, don't forget to upgrade to the VIP package for just $97 during the summit, and then afterwards it will be going up. And also, don't forget to check out our sponsors that have made this be a free event for all of you. Companies like STEM Regen and HBot USA. Martha, I want to thank you again for being part of Reverse the Effects of Aging Summit.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you. And everyone, I will catch you on to the next interview. This episode is brought to you by Bioptimizer's Masszymes. This is digestive enzymes that helps you break down your protein, fats, starches, and sugars. I've been using this product for, over a year now, specifically in a protein-heavy meal, because I really want to break down my protein to make sure I get the amino acids that I need for maintaining muscle growth, maintaining lean muscle mass. Super important as we age and all stages of life, really. So again, huge proponent of Masszymes. Check out the link below to see how you can get at least 10% off, if not more. Cheers.
Podcast produced by the Minted Green Company